Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It's time for the drafting of machine shop caution. This this activity is very important, and this caution, especially the machine shop caution, is I have always discussed the importance of this caution, but it's now the exact time where we will gonna understand the drafting of this caution. So before I start, I would just request and I would explain my assumptions over here. First, my assumption is that you have given your 100%. You must have watched the debrief lecture, the lecture of Machine Shop, where I discussed the requirements, the debrief lecture of Machine Shop. Second assumption is that you have at least read it once. At least you must have read the case once. This is also the requirement. Third is, and you have done all this under the exam conditions, that is you have given yourself 4 hours. It should have been done within the 4 hours time, and then only you will get the results. You will understand what this session is all about. The first question actually asked for the evaluation of potential acquisition of FRG, and it was supposed to be recommended to machine shop that whether they should acquire FRG or not. And the skills of skepticism were available. Marks for the skills of skepticism were available in this requirement. Before I speak anything about skepticism, just a quick recap. It's about challenging, questioning, probing, not accepting things on the face value, challenging the assumptions, going into the details, corroborating the things, the facts mentioned in the exhibits, cautioning things wherever possible. So here skepticism skills are supposed to be used in cautioning the reasons for the potential acquisition of FRG. Plus, plus, if you can see the marks were 24 for this only caution number one, which means it is almost around 50% of your passing marks. Your passing marks are 50, and 24 is 50%, around 50% of the passing marks. Plus, it's about the potential acquisition, and we know that for potential acquisition, we have got the framework of SFA, which is which is based on three headings, three areas to be covered in that: suitability, feasibility, and acceptability aspects. So these three aspects are need to be covered and discussed, and for that we'll gain 24 marks. Technically, 20 marks and 4 marks for the style. So for the content that we're gonna write, the points should be made on the basis of 20 marks, and additional formatting, using of words, how to start the answer, how to end the answer, how to consider the audience in that, how to be considerate of the other facts. This would require, my friends, um, professional skills to be demonstrated. The quality of marks, the type of points made, the approach towards the answer. This all will actually come under the heading of professional marks. What uh, what am I what am what I see and what I comment about this? If the student has not used the SFA framework, and people call it SAF framework as well, she will not lose the technical marks. Remember that the technical marks will be there, the 20 marks, mentioning the model that yes, we are using the SFA framework, that or making the headings of suitability, feasibility, acceptability won't actually give marks, won't actually score marks for the students. No marks for textbook style advantages and disadvantages. Remember that if somebody comes up with the advantages and disadvantages of acquisition compared to the organic growth, this won't help them score the marks. Then we have got in general, which are not related to situation at machine of that's clear. So from this comment, the takeaway is your every paragraph slash point should be linked with FRG or machine shop. Definitely because the machine shop is the acquiring company and FRG is the target company. If SFA framework is used, then the format of the answer will be like this is now just to help you brainstorm. Now, first look at this. I've prepared the answer for you. You just need to focus on it. First is introduction. Introduction should come up for 2 to 3 lines. But where do you see the answer in terms of rewards, in terms of the marks? For these 2 3 lines, you won't get any technical mark. No technical mark. Then we have got suitability, feasibility, and acceptability. Remember, we don't need any theory. If if you are writing it, if you are writing it, for example, no marks for that. Remember, so we need to write something and everything for which we'll get the marks. But yes, there are some paragraphs like some openings and some short closings and paras like that. These are supposed to be written in order to give a professional touch. So there are at times the paragraphs. There won't be many. They're just the starting and the ending ones, and they will actually help us in portraying and displaying the skills of professionalism, right? Then, but student can write it for getting themselves into comfort zone. What I have written is just look at the yellow underline over here. Now, if you look at this, you will see that I have mentioned that if these students are okay with it and they want to write 1 line or 2 line theory before they start actual answer, and they think that writing these introverts would help them in answering the requirements, then I would suggest yes, okay, go for that. But remember, every minute saved is every minute paid, because if you can save any minute, it means you can get some earning, you can get some discussing the that um, there's no need to actually write the theory. But if the students are feeling themselves to come under the comfort zone, then they are actually supposed to write as less as possible, because we can say that every minute saved is minute earned. Every second saved is the second earned. Because if you can save something, it will help you when the time will get closer to the end of the 4 hour period. So, SBL is a lengthy exam, and we cannot afford to write much extra. But still, because students usually ask me about whether, sir, we will get marks for this, whether we'll get marks for this, shall I write this? Even as per my recommendation, I always refer these students to to save their time and not to write extra. And not to write extra at all, because write something for which you will get the marks. If you're not getting the marks for something, then what's the point of writing that thing? I hope I am clear with it. And let's move next. Every point under the heading is to be drafted in 3 to 4 lines paragraph. Now we'll have the exam over the computer-based setup. How would we? The theme is keep your point in just couple of paras, a couple of sentences, a single sentence or couple of sentences, not more than 2 sentences. Ideally, the point should come up in the one single sentence, or you may go for the second sentence and that's it. The average size of paragraph should be 3 to 4 lines. This this is actually to limit and to stop and to avoid extra writing for no charge, writing for no reward, because many students tend to spend their time like this, that they write extra and then in the end they find it very difficult to complete their SBL exam. Remember, in ACCA SBL there are there's a 100-mark exam with 5 skills coming up, but along with that, in ACCA SBL we have got one more challenge to address, and that's a completely a different, a constant challenge that we will face for the entire 4 hours, and that challenge is to ensure that whatever you are doing should be done well in just 4 hours. You wouldn't get a minute extra. Now, you will first you will do what, sir? I would go for some introduction. You have just told this. Okay. Now, if I see the drafted scripts of my students, or the scripts that I've checked, um, I see that yes, there are some scripts where the students have very wisely and very smartly used their opening sentences, which are showing the uh, the professionalism skills, the professional skills, general professionalism, along with that, which are also showing the idea behind what's coming up next in the answers. First is introduction. Then we have got 3 headings to cover one by one: suitability, feasibility, acceptability, based on the fact that I'll be answering on the framework that is available. Um, Framework, and this framework is SFA framework. So if I'll work on this SFA framework, then I'll have 3 headings to make. I'll have 3 headings to make, and these 3 headings are suitability, feasibility, and acceptability, which I need to consider. So I have to break these headings, like for example, 20 marks technical. I would like to keep around, um, for 20 marks, let's take out 18 marks for this and 2 marks for recommendations safely. For 18 marks, I should have 9 things minimum to be explained for 2 marks, or at least 7 things for 1 marks, and 2 things or 3 things for a couple of marks. This you cannot plan it. Just to be very honest, how can you plan without reading the exhibits that your point, you will actually gather 18 different points? No, the practical thing is being very practical right now. I would say that when you will read the exhibits, you will be able to extract the points. For example, if the points are hardly 7 to 8 that you have identified, then it means you need to write them very well to get try to get two out of that. But for example, if you are able to find out points like 14 to 15 points, 16 points, 17 points, then you will not be worried about how many points should be going for the 2 marks. You'll try to keep things for one, and you will explain few points in such detail that you will expect such details to give you 2 marks. In summary, if somebody comes up and asks for, so how much should I write in suitability, how much should I write in feasibility, and how much should I write in acceptability? Brother, my friend, student, this is not depend upon your choice. This is not based on how you actually want to attempt the exam. This will largely depend upon how the exhibits are set up. So, for example, if I get around 3 to 4 points for suitability, uh, I would write for 6 marks. Then, if I get around 7 to 8 points for feasibility, I would get around 10, 12 marks for that. I can actually attempt to get that. And for acceptability, once again, for 4 to 5 points. So, this cannot be pre-agreed or pre-planned that you would get this much from the suitability, from feasibility, and from acceptability. And once again, remember, despite of the fact that we are actually heading towards a framework based answer, but if somebody removes the headings that we're going to use, like, no, if somebody is okay with it without using the suitability, feasibility, and acceptability model, you need to, or you just want to appraise the you just want to appraise the target or this acquisition. Then also you can get the maximum marks for the technical marks available in the exam. And then recommendation, remember that recommendation should be clear and supported with proper evidence and reasoning, because without that the recommendation would give you marks. Remember, clear cut, clear, well supported recommendation would give you marks. Now it's time for jotting down the points under the headings of SFA. Let's think for points for suitability. Start now. Think about points with regard to suitability. What will you gonna write about suitability? Then think about the points of feasibility, and then write about that, and then write about the points about acceptability, and then finally jot that down. Take like 5 minutes and quickly sum it. You can sum this up. It's very simple. It's time to check out the points for the suitability factor. Suitability is actually about the match and the match between the acquisition and the target company. So we have got 4 points, and yes, we will draft it together, and we'll draft these points together. And drafting this portion alone can give you enough confidence to score above 50 marks at least. So if you are not able to draft anything, just draft the machine shop and try to fix it as much as you can because this question will will hopefully help you much in scoring and passing your SBL exam successfully. First point is speed to market. Since machine shop is planning to uh, grow quickly, this acquisition would help them do this. Two organizations will benefit from economies of scale, and then you're by going for acquisitions, the difficulties concerned with organic growth can be addressed because there are many issues which happen to create barrier for growth in organic structures where the organizations are moving and growing since ages on organic basis. Machine shop has no experience of foreign acquisitions. Machine shop, machine shop, machine shop acquisition have not been that successful. For example, Locktrends. Now, look at this. Here, this is a positive point. This is once again a positive point. But when we look at this, avoid difficulties of growing organically in C-line. Um, this this can be this can be the case as well. But remember here, there is one thing to understand very clearly. When we consider this, we can see that there are difficulties with regard to the organic growth of the companies because if you're going into some other jurisdiction, some other area, some other country, their culture might be different, people will be different, choices would be different. There would be an entire different market, different paradigm of and different frame of minds in which we're gonna sell. So if you are just buying something, if you're just purchasing a company or acquiring a company over there where you actually want to expand, then you are actually diffusing this thing and you are avoiding this problem which could have arisen if you have gone for, if machine shop would have gone for the organic growth. There's a problem that machine shop has no experience of foreign acquisition. Machine shop other acquisition have not been that successful. Now, this is an alarming point, and this is a point to be considered. To be considered, um, not just this fact alone would lead to us no for this deal. Remember, you need to be very patient, and you need to show patience as well. You just not need to be patient from your mind. Rather, you need to show the patience in when you are drafting the answer to the audience. Here, when you will be drafting the answer to the audience, you will keep in your mind that yes, for acquisitions, um, experience is missing from the machine shop's point of view. Um, but not necessarily. If lock trans has failed, if another acquisition has failed, doesn't mean that every acquisition would fail. We can try. We can try our best to make this deal, and and a win solution can be considered. And eventually acquisition can be seen as a very quick growth method by risk-taking companies. So few have faced the music as well, and some have enjoyed the benefits too. Finally, up to 2 marks for other relevant comments relating to suitability. So if you have written something else with regard to suitability, you need to write that down or send that to me um, over the email and get checked. I repeat, these are the 4 points that I have identified. And there are definitely more than 4 points that can be considered over here. And furthermore, now we'll move to the remember that our basic assumption is 1 mark per point. But sometimes students are able to score more than 1 mark on a particular point if that point is well developed. Well developed means you will see that there are a few paragraphs which I myself call well developed. Then for well developed point, you may go for 2 marks provided by more explanation. But uh, from the perspective of uh, scoring minimum marks and managing the time pressures and the time management as well, I would just recommend to uh, make point, and if you are feeling comfortable, then explain it as much comprehensively as possible. Get the maximum marks, but don't spoil the mark by confusing it, by making it uh, a mixed cocktail. Don't do that. Let's start now. It's time for speed to market, drafting of speed to market. So speed to market, you need to draft about it. How you're gonna write this point in the context of the machine shop and in relation to the FRG. If you're writing something which is in the context of machine shop, but it is not linked with FRG, then you will not gain marks. If you're writing something without even mentioning machine shop and FRG both, you won't get marks. At least you need to start your answer with linkage and then the points may continue. So I hope you have drafted it now. Let's look at the drafted version of this. For example, we have got this. FRG's acquisition would make sense as the speed to market is essential for the acquiring company. This appears to be the case at Machine Shop as the board. Obviously, the board of Machine Shop wants the company to grow quickly. Now, this is the linkage, and as there are no direct competitors. So this is the advantage of going directly, and this is the advantage of going for the acquisition. In the case of machine shop, a better version of this this is correct. This is not incorrect, but let's look at the better version. The board of machine shop wants to grow quickly. As there are currently no direct competitors of machine shop in the market, therefore the acquisition of FRG is an opportunity which can offer the rapid growth which the board of machine shop is seeking. Now, this I'll always talk. I'll try to talk wherever possible in this way that the likely marks according to the examining team for this paragraph is as per their working, um, 1 to 2 marks. The machine shop wants to grow quickly and there are no direct competitors. FRG is an opportunity for the rapid growth. So it's a well developed point. It is a well developed point. Some may argue that only 1 mark should be offered for this. I'm okay with one mark for this point, and it can also score two. It can also score two, because you can understand that there cannot be an 100% certainty about how you're gonna be marked. Because at the end of the day, there is some subjectivity when it comes to point being made, and the marking of that point. So point, it's a well-developed point. Uh, my feeler is, I wouldn't say 1.5. Yes, this is the way how ACCA marks 1.5 or 2.5, but we will stick to the whole number, one or two, right? 1.5 can be taken as the ideal for this. Then you have economies of scale. The second point, the economies of scale. Another benefit of acquisition is that the economies of scale can be obtained since purchases for both the companies together would mean more favorable terms, including discounts. Now, the the part in yellow is explaining how economies of scale would benefit the machine shop, because FRG, if we assume that the acquisition takes place, if the acquisition of FRG takes place, then we'll have to say, we'll have to believe that after acquisition of FRG, after acquisition of FRG, machine shop will mean FRG too. Machine shop will have FRG in it, right? After the acquisition of FRG. Now we need to understand that every point that we are making should actually be properly explained. It should be well developed point. We are giving the computer based exams, and for computer based exam, the benefit that we have is when we are planning the question. For example, question number one, and we have identified this, that we can gain as a benefit of acquisition, we can gain economies of scale. Um, if this is how, if for example, this is how the acquisition can be beneficial for the machine shop, we need to, when we are working in the scratch pad, when we are working and planning, or just, or even after reading the exhibits, when we are just going to attempt the particular question, what we need to do is we need to do this: control C and control plus V, that is copy plus paste from the exhibits in smart way, that we just need to put some relevant explanation, and the terms are always already, or the phrases are already there for us to just add some somewhat explanation to that, which can be given 1 to 2 marks, right? Then we'll have, I hope you are copying this and you're noting this while I'm explaining the things with you. So are you done with it? So are you done with economies of scale? Now, I'll give you just 60 seconds. Your time starts now. Draft this point in the context of machine shop. Around 80 seconds were given. Let's continue. Let's look at the answer now. Acquisition is likely to avoid the problems associated with culture mismatch, which are bound to rise through growing organically in a foreign country. Uh, if we are here in Panama, this is the home country, and we are heading for another country, Pakistan. The culture of the two nations, two countries is different, and setting up something first over here and secondly over here. So you have got experience of this country, good idea about this country, but you do not have idea about Pakistan, and the culture misfit may arise. The best part which can be played by the acquisition is if there is some ready-made business available, working, working business, registered business, directly acquire that business, bring it under your name, and start moving in the direction of your dreams. That's it. Now, this is fairly for only one mark, right? A better version of this for 2 marks, for sure 2 marks. Now, first, look at this. Acquisition is likely to avoid the problems associated with culture mismatch as the machine shop has no experience related to customer choices, expectation of the stakeholders, and the way of doing business in Sealand. Once again, I'll repeat. As the machine shop has no experience related to customer choices. Now, this is a more elaborative and more comprehensive version of this. Expectations of the stakeholders. Look at this. And the way of doing business. Now, how would we relate this to the marketing? Just writing the culture mismatch. Culture mismatch would have impact on the employees, would have impact on the leadership, would have impact on the customer choices, would have impact on the overall the product design and the services and the decisions of the company. Maybe this is very clear. This is quite clear that this the impact would be huge. The impact would be huge because of the cultural mismatch. The impact could be huge. More more about this is FRG would enable the machine shop to serve the customers in Sealand by sharing their local experience. This is what we are looking for. As machine shop, we are looking for this local experience to be purchased, to be easily taken, to be pulled up in our experience bank so that we can operate successfully over there as well. So I think this drafting needs to be copied. This drafting needs to be copied. Is it clear now? So let's move forward. Now it's time to draft acquisition experience of machine shop. Now they have got the experience of machine shop with regard to the acquisitions. We all know that it is not very favorable, and we have read about lock trends and the entities where the acquisition has been not very much successful. Let's try this. Just try this right now. Even if you have drafted the entire answer before as well, just draft it right now. Just draft for 1 and 2 marks. Remember, if you can grip, if you can control, if you can take care of your paras, if you can take care of your pointers, if you can take care of what you're writing in a particular sentence, don't worry then. The answer sheet or the entire SBL answer, entire SBL answer will take care of itself. If you're taking care of the paras and the pointers which you're making, if you're very much in if you're very much in control of them and you have got good control, and if I ask you to draft any paragraph over something that's not a trouble for you and you are ready to give it a try, then remember, this is a very good news. It's time to draft it. Hiring a foreign company, the history of machine shop suggests that the local acquisitions fail to deliver the promise slash expected benefits that should have realized from the acquisitions. This suggests that the machine shop needs to consider the issues um, which led to the less optimized results. That is post acquisition. I'm talking about the post acquisition. Because at the time of acquisition, everything was expected to be fine, okay, but it happens usually um, that after the acquisition, the expectations are not met and the results are not as favorable as are seen. This is the true state. This is the true state of the mergers and acquisition story. Yes, this happens very usually. Moving on, because FRG is located in Sealand, as discussed above, therefore this needs further consideration of factors that would be essential for the successful post-acquisition results. Now, let me tell you that this is the way where skepticism is seen. You must have viewed the lectures of professional skepticism and other professional skills. Uh, Now, you need to identify where I am showing the skepticism. I'm showing the skepticism over here. This needs further consideration. They got no experience and suggest that the local acquisition failed to deliver. I'm questioning whether it will work. I'm not just talking about the positives of this acquisition story. No, the deal has got pros and cons both. So I'm discussing both sides to it. Moving on now for this in total, we can put, for example, we can calculate like in this way that for suitability, the 20 marks plus 4 marks, 4 professional marks, and for these 20 marks, you are here right now. We are writing the answers and we are discussing the drafting as well. So the technical version, the technical marks, we have got 3 headings to fill along with a recommendation. I would suggest that once we have aimed for 6 to 8 marks and we have written for this, now we are left with around 12 to 14 marks. And we have got 3 headings to cover: feasibility, acceptability, and then recommendation. So every time you are moving from one heading to another, or moving from one requirement to another, you're moving from one page to another. Keep yourselves very well versed with where you are. Keep tracking yourself. Because if you lose focus, if you lose control, if you lose monitoring, if you just take this for granted for a while, this might result for greater damages that will that might have grave consequences over the time management of the entire SBL exam. Let's move then. It's time for feasibility. Just talk about feasibility. Talking about feasibility, feasibility refers to the resources and competency side of the uh, parent company, acquiring company, and whether they've got experience. This let's just start doing this, and then we'll see what the points will have for us. For example, 1 mark for stating no comment on financial feasibility. No price agreed yet. Because financial feasibility, the price for the deal and the valuation from numerical point of view is the details are not mentioned. And mentioning this, that this detail is not mentioned, I repeat, mentioning this, that this detail is not mentioned, is itself a point to be mentioned. Mentioning something which could have given us something very important, which could have helped which could have helped us in the analysis, the better recommendation could have been much better evaluated, and then the recommendation could have been given. But since the price is not yet agreed, so therefore we can say that commenting on the financial feasibility would not be easy for us right now, and this obviously will be a point for only 1 mark. Then we can have 2 marks for discussing potential difficulty of negotiating with shareholders of FRG, particularly trade union shareholders. Um, for this, you might look for some experience, or this point might come from someone who is experienced or who has seen the deal in their professional career, whether at any stage, if they have seen the details of a deal, or at least if you have make this point in your theory lectures, or you have made this, or you can just take this point as a takeaway for you and keep this as your learning point, that For a private company like FRG, the shareholders are supposed to be considered, and sometimes trade unions also come into play because such factories and companies and organizations where labor is involved, the trade unions also play an important role, and these stakeholders are supposed to be considered over there. So, negotiating with them, since we have got no experience of such negotiations, or we'll have to see that. For machine shop, this would be an important point. Then we're done with this. 1 mark for stating no comments, then 2 marks for this. Now we'll move to the 2 marks for poor competencies related to acquisitions. For example, at Lockpants. Earlier it was about the experience and the match. Here it is about, we're talking about the experience and competencies, because resources and competencies are usually dealt under the heading of feasibility, right? So you need to explain it properly, and you'll see that the explanation over here uh, will be convincing and will aim for 2 marks. Then we'll have 2 marks for discussing FRG not being a complete match to machine shop. My friends, here the point is that discussing FRG not being a complete match to machine shop means that uh, whenever the acquisition and target company, acquiring company and to be acquired company are compared, and the target is evaluated, target company is evaluated for the sake of acquisition. At such time, at such moments, we really need to check out the match, the compatibility between both the companies, like size-wise differences, uh, the differences in terms of turnover, the capital employed difference. These differences um, matter. Definitely, they matter because any aspects. So this is something, my friends, this is something which can also be elaborated for 2 marks. And yes, I'll give you right now like 10 minutes to draft this all right away. Right now, right away. Up to 2 marks each for the other relevant comments relating to feasibility. Let's write it all together. Let's write all these points or any other point in total 10 minutes. 10 minutes, right? And after that, I'll I'll draft in front of you, or I'll let me get the drafting ready so that I can show you at that time. Let's start drafting. Even if you have drafted it earlier, I would request you to draft this for me, at least keeping this screen in front of you. Remember, my friend, we've got around 10 minutes to write this, to type this. Now, I would say that keep two screens at a time. One for watching this, for example, cell phone, and one for drafting it right away on the laptops or the computers. Um, Please practice in the mode in which you are supposed to give exams. If still your exam centers are paper-based, physical exam centers go for the drafting in terms of handwritten answers. But if you're also giving the computer-based exams or remote exams or CV exams, then this is the way to answer. So let's continue now and let's look at the drafting quickly. The first point was about the financial feasibility. If I have put it up in this way, now look at this. How would you gonna mark this? The negotiations have not yet started with FRG with regard to acquisition. As a result, no comment on the financial feasibility can be made. This is how I have mentioned that I cannot make the comment. I cannot make the comment over this, so comment has not been made. However, the difficulty of satisfactorily evaluating a private company suggests that many months of negotiations might lie ahead. And this is one of the things that the machine shop would be looking for, because they want some advice and they are asking for recommendation. And since you are an expert and you are in this role to give the report, so things like that, that this may take time, and this cannot be done very ambitiously. So if even if you are looking for very fast growth, you have to wait, you have to work on the principle of patience. These things show the professionalism and the very live feel that yes, this is how the practically the corporate world works, because you need to make the audience feel, and very accurately and correctly, I would say that you need to make your examining team feel that whatever you have written is by empathizing that role. By empathizing the role, I mean that you have actually gone into those shoes, and now you are actually working on that. After that, we have got difficulty in negotiating with shareholders and trade unions, particularly. Now, here, I'll just say that this would score 1 to 2 marks, and I said that I'll keep the marks in whole number, but 1.5 is what I feel over here. Moreover, we have got negotiations point. In this point, we have got difficulty in negotiating with shareholders, trade unions particularly. The negotiations with shareholders needs to be carefully carried out to ensure that the deal is finalized to achieve the board's objective of operating globally. Now, we are not supposed to stuck in between or lose the deal, or 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 for example waste our time over some deadlock. Rather, we need to make the deal, whether it takes months, but yes, it should at least progress. And such huge contracts and such mergers and acquisitions contract and such deals practically take um, time. It's very rarely that such things are done in very short time. Rather, what I have seen that what what I have seen that practically it takes much time. It takes much time, right? So you need to have this thing mentioned in your answer to get the marks. You need to empathize your role. You need to go into that role and think and actually put yourself in that role and then write the answer. This will be perhaps the best way to score the marks. Yes. Then we have got next paragraph. The machine shop. The machine shop has no experience of dealing with labor unions, whereas um, FRG's acquisition would require dealing with the labor union, which would raise concerns with respect to labor retention, labor wage rights, labor wages and labor rights in FRG. Uh, you can feel the real world touch in that. This is how it should move. This is how it should move, right? Now, moving on. Poor competencies relating to acquisitions. You must have written that at Log Trends, these actors had to be removed post-merger because of personality clashes. This has been mentioned in the case, right? It ends up there was a problem in instilling in service engineers the need for appropriate customer service, although actions have been taken to improve performance at these two acquisitions. Now, just I would ask you to mark this. Now it's your time to mark this. Come on. How would you gonna mark this? How many marks for this? Now, let me tell you. This is just case. And referring to the case, just case will give you 0 marks. And then this is just repetition from the case. No marks for this. Remember, when I am facilitating the students, when I am facilitating you, I always wish and I always target to not just, not just give you the advice with regard to the right way. Rather, I also try to inculcate the symptoms of wrong ways because knowing the wrong ways can be helpful in avoiding the wrong ways. I repeat, knowing the wrong ways, learning the wrong ways that this way goes wrong and this damages XYZ and this challenges this and this leads to this. This eventually uh, this eventually helps in actually writing and drafting and typing the best answers. Here it comes. Poor competencies, it's relating to acquisitions. Acquisitions at Machine Shop were faced with problems of integration and cultural fit, which were then addressed as happened with Long Trends and ANSA. It might be reasonable to expect that the acquisition of a FRG would be even less successful. Therefore, the competencies and acquisitions are much needed to be reviewed rigorously. This is a fully developed point and a well developed point, you can say. This will surely get 2 marks from the examining team. Just copy it down, please. Don't take the screenshot, just copy it down, please. All right, then. Let's continue. Not a complete match with Machine Shop. FRG has got no experience of selling to retail customers. Now, this is just a point from the case, yes, which accounts for 65% of Machine Shop's total sales. This means that the Machine Shop can take this opportunity to serve the unexplored market of retail customers in Sealand, thereby gaining the first mover comparative advantage. This is a very lovely point, beautiful point. Now look at this. These are the magical words which score marks for the students. This means that. up till here, from here till here, this is all about something coming directly from the exhibit. You are inferring that thing from the, you are referring that thing from the details of the case. But this means that is actually conversion of your case details to practical application, right? This means that the machine shop can take this opportunity to serve the unexplored market of retail customers in Sealand, thereby gaining first mover comparative advantage. A very good point. Can score up to 2 marks. Yes. So up till here, we can sum this like 6 to 8 marks from suitability and 7 to 8 marks from feasibility. Roughly around 14 to 16 marks. Now we have got one heading of acceptability to carry on, and then we have got recommendation. Right? Let's let's move. I always say one thing, that numbers without words are nothing. Zero. For example, you are mentioning something about profit. You are mentioning some ratio. You are mentioning something from numbers, right? But if there is no interpretation and explanation with regard to the case, then the numbers without words are nothing. Remember that. Let's move now. All right, we'll work for this, and we'll work for this like in this way, that once again we're gonna write this right now quickly, and we'll try to keep it very quick. Remember, it's all about how you take, how you approach the question. So for acceptability, uh, 2 marks for discussing the board and therefore shareholders likely to be attracted by risk and potential reward. We'll talk about risk and rewards in the headings of acceptability, right? Then we have got 1 mark for comment on difficulty of comparing financial performance. If you're comparing the machine shop with FRG, the comparability should exist. Like with like comparisons are easy to do and easy to comment on. There is one question which I would like to address right now. Let me just answer it right away. The question, for example, asks that, sir, what if while writing suitability, we write something from feasibility in this heading? While writing suitability, something coming from acceptability is also written in this heading. And when it comes to feasibility and acceptability, it's too late, and we don't want to change that, we don't want to cut that, we don't want to delete that. You may just refer, what solution is, you may just refer as discussed above. And if it has been discussed in detail, you don't need to even mention this. If there's something more you would like to talk about that, just write uh, as discussed above in the heading of suitability. As discussed above would be fine. Even this, as discussed above, and then continue if there's something which you feel that should be added. If there is misplacement in headings, something from suitability, feasibility, and acceptability. For example, suitability, 1 point of suitability can be seen in acceptability, and then one point can be seen in feasibility. The point of acceptability is seen in feasibility. This all is, my friend, uh, you can say that this all is tolerable. There is no penalization for that. Even for spelling error, unless and until that's very cardinal or that's some very grave, which changes the meaning and sense, and the examiner cannot pick that. These things are not penalized. So that's a good news. Then we've got 1 mark for comment on difficulty of comparing past performance. That I've said only already. 1 mark each for calculations accompanied by a meaningful comment. Now look at this. What I'm mentioning over here. Look at this meaningful comment, right? So the comment should make sense. Of gross profit margin, one, operating profit margin, return on capital employed, and gearing for both companies, right? And for other relevant ratios at discretion of marker, up to 4 marks for calculations, up 2 marks for other relevant comments related to acceptability. So we need to just target 4 marks from this, and then we can have 2 marks, around 2 marks from the recommendations as well. Once again, the question about using headings as far as possible. We'll try to use headings as far as possible. Remember that this is something which I have already always said, that as far as possible. If it's possible, then use that. Then we have got, but not where you are afraid of losing marks. If you are thinking that you will lose marks because you always get confused when sometimes in some headings you get confused and in some headings you are very confident. So wherever you are confident, keep that confidence with you and write in the headings. And if you feel that going for headings would damage your confidence and you might lose marks, then you might look for some, just giving the main headings and not going for the subheadings. Made headings for SFA, but remember, no need to make subheadings. You don't need to make subheadings. If you're just making heading of suitability, don't need to make subheading 1, subheading 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't need to work like this, right? So this is something for uh, approaching the answers. Discussing, let's move to the drafting because it's ready. Discussing that board is likely to be attracted by risk and potential reward. Now, the point is, discussing that board and therefore shareholders likely to be attracted by risk and potential reward. The board of Machineshop is likely to be attracted by the FRG's acquisition since its performance is currently below threshold where Machineshop can obtain the global exposure to become eventually a globally recognized brand. Um, we can say that the machine shop would be excited. I also personally feel that the board of machine shop would be very excited if the prospects and the numbers and the details suggest that the acquisition should be taken. The best part is the FRG is performing at this level. The potential to perform is at this level. Machine Shop is a huge company, and Machine Shop can help FRG to reach its potential and to even go beyond this and to become a huge company. So this this is a well explained point, but only for 1 mark. Now, difficulty in comparing financial performance. Comparison of FRG with machine shop is difficult due to the fact that FRG is not operating in retail market, which actually adds a major proportion of 65% in total machine shop sale. Now you can see that I have already underlined that. Moreover, the country and culture are also different, which also makes the comparison more difficult and less reliable. Remember that whenever we are making comparisons, even with regard to the ratios and with regard to any other financial numbers or results, we need to write like this. Let me highlight where you will get the professional marks. See, my friends, from here till here. These are the areas where you're likely to get, you're very likely to get professional marks. Remember, not, yes, this is not possible that in every paragraph you would show skepticism. It is a theme which should be reflected in some of the paragraphs, ideally, where the point makes sense. And overall, the format needs to be kept intact, and the tone of the answer should be, which is already covered over here. This is all needed to score the four professional marks available in this requirement. Financial aspect of the acceptability. Now it's time for discussing the financial aspect of acceptability. Acknowledging the limitations stated above, we can still have some meaningful comparison between the financial performance of machine shop and FRG. Now we're just starting with it, right? This is for one mark. You can feel that I've uh, just written this, that I'm just starting this, right? I'm just starting this, just that the meaningful comparison can be done. Some meaningful comparison, because I am being paid for that. If you have asked me to produce the report, so in my capacity, my charges and my payment will reflect the work, or my work should actually equate or go beyond what I'm being paid for. Because I need to give value to the machine shop. I need to provide value to the machine shop board. Uh, and this is how, and my friends, this is how you'll have to write about the numbers. Let me tell you, we are known as financial experts in the market, and we are seen as the uh, for those who have got good financial background and financial insight, financial background in the sense that having good financial analysis knowledge. But yes, even at the level of SBL, the students make such blunders that cannot be explained in words, and which definitely damages their image in the perception and the view of the examining team. Let's move. The gross profit margin and the net profit margin of FRG are 16.6% and 4.4% respectively, whereas Machine Shop records the same at 28% and 11.2%, showing the significant difference between their margins, which could mean that there could be less control over the cost. Other reasons for this at FRG, a very well constructed point. Look at the two ratios which are mentioned. Clearly, the numbers are different. And then uh, let me show you the magical words which convert your just reference to the case into a solid point. Is this, which could mean that? Can you see this? Can you see this, my friends? This is something. Yes, yes. This is something uh, which could mean, this means that you need to be very familiar with these words, because this will help you in quickly switching your drafted answer into some meaningful comment. And then after adding this, which could mean, obviously after that you will have to write something which makes some interpretation, which makes some sense, and therefore you will get uh, you are very likely to be rewarded after that. These are some golden points which I'm sharing right now, and these have proved to be very vital. And in fact, I would very clearly say uh, that these points have played a role of critical success factor for many students. Then we have got Ross, the return on capital employed. I remember one of the sessions, there was some training, and the trainer was from some, I think, somewhere near the London, somewhere inside the United Kingdom, UK, and we were having some session, and he was like, that the Rocky of ABC company, right? He was actually pronouncing this as Rocky. And so if somebody says the Rocky of machine shop, there's no difference would be made because the exam is not verbal. The exam is coming up in terms of the written. And yes, if it is used as Rocky and Ross both, uh, we just need to keep our interpretation intact. That's it. So the ROS of machine shop is also better than FRG, comparing with 17.4% return on capital employed with 6.45%. This shows that now once again you can see you are able to highlight these words. This shows that the machine shop is able to generate more returns by utilizing the investment more efficiently. This will score 1 mark, and should be no greed in deliberately, uselessly making a very lengthy point. The point itself it would ask you, and you'll get this feeler now because you have now started attempting portions, and machine shop is the gateway to successfully attempt the further papers as well. Now we have got the gearing ratios. Gearing ratios are 15% and 20.16% for machine shop and FRG respectively. Furthermore, the interest cover of FRG is 2.66 times compared with 16 times of machine shop. Therefore, it is less risky for machine shop to obtain debt finance as the interest payments will be less sensitive to the changes in profit figure. I won't gonna explain that. This is a very common point. You might have, you must have covered this in financial management studies where you have discussed, where you have studied the financial structure, the capital structure of the company, and the debt components, apparent implications. Now, it's your time. I'll give you 5 minutes, like 5 to 7 minutes, to start drafting the recommendation. Start drafting it right away. Start your drafting right now. So it's now time to look at the drafting of recommendation. Here we see that the in theory, an acquisition would appear to be a suitable growth strategy given machine shop's strategic position and objectives. However, whether the acquisition of FRG is appropriate is doubtful. Now look at the skepticism which is used over here. FRG does not appear to be financially performing particularly well, and it has no experience of selling to domestic customers. Now, this is the clear mentioning of the issues with regard to the acquisition, because this is going to be the recommendation. So, things, summing up things, summarizing things would be very important. Furthermore, Machine Shop has no experience of acquiring a company outside Arboria. Now, this is about now the Machine Shop, right? Then overall, now I would like to mention one thing as well. You might feel that this is coming twice because it has been discussed earlier as well. This is not coming twice. Here it is coming as in the sense of uh, the recommendation. So this is not repetition, right? This is recommendation. Overall, the proposed purchase of FRG appears to be very risky, and machine shop might be better looking elsewhere for a more suitable acquisition, right? Now you are in the role of a business analyst, right? So look, now reread this paragraph of overall the proposed acquisition. Now look at this. Now you can understand that this is how a business analyst should write. Then it might also consider entering into a dialogue with FRG. This is how no, the things supposed to be learned from this question. I've always mentioned that machine shop is a source of priceless learning. It might also consider entering into a dialogue with FRG about a strategic alliance of some sort, perhaps followed by acquisition. If we, this is actually showing the way the plan B, like entering into a dialogue with FRG about a strategic alliance, and then that can be followed by acquisition, which might offer an attractive alternative to immediate purchase of the company. So, my friend, uh, you have to mention that um, either whether they should go for yes or no, right? And if there are some other options, then other ways should also be mentioned. So, question one, along with the recommendation, is of 24 marks, and these 24 marks, if, for example, if they are considered properly, these 24 marks can play a very vital role in actually scoring the 15 marks, minimum 50 marks target. So we have got 24 marks that we should consider while while we are um, drafting this answer, and the time proportion should be uh, aligned with what should be maximum time that should be spent over this question, right? So let's summarize it. finally uh, that we have alhamdulillah um, we have alhamdulillah covered this question number one. For this question, I would recommend you to please redraft it after even going through this activity, and this will help you uh, in a possible question of uh, acquisitions evaluation in upcoming ACCA SBL's exam attempt. Remember that this 24 marks, if you are attempting, if you are planning, and you should plan that you should give 100% try to the 100% try to the entire 100 marks available in the exam. But there are circumstances where um, we find it difficult for us, or the students find it very difficult to ensure um, that every mark is attempted. So the best part is, if there are 24 marks available for a particular requirement, make sure that you target around 16 to 18. And if the question is very juicy, target around 20 marks. And then, just for the sake of 4 marks, do not give very extra time. Usually it happens that a 16 mark answer has already been written. Now for 4 marks, you're not getting the points, and 4 marks are for the format. What students usually do is, for these 4 marks, to make it a very beautiful answer and to fix everything in this answer, they spend, for this 4 marks, they spend 8 minutes, and then they spend further 8 minutes. So if 16 minutes will be taken by just these 4 marks, you might have just given it a good try, written some short pointers, and then you should rush to the next question, because the entire, for example, the next question is of 18 plus 20 marks. So the 20 marks are waiting for you. If you will invest those 16 minutes, or let's say even if we talk about around 12 minutes or 10 minutes over there, the ratio of output would be much more. So smartly, you need to plan very smart with regard to how you approach the answers. Um, this is all from chapter question number one. Now we'll move to question number two.